Oh, konnichiwa. Bonjour. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. How are you today? This is Ken at 10. How was your weekend? Hope you had a good one. If you haven't been here before, we're James Alexander Estate Agents. We broadcast daily about all things property. We're based in Norbury, which is in southwest London. Oh, my coffee's just arrived. Cheers, little advert for Costa there. And thank you, Kelly. We are looking at a fairly bright and sunny day today, but hasn't the temperature dropped? Is it with you? Gosh, it's colder here today for sure. A few bits of good news in the last week. The latest one was this. Yes, number one for sales. That's where we want to be. If you're looking to sell a property in the Norbury, Thornton Heath and surrounding areas, Streatham, call us. Have a chat. We're here, keen to talk to you. Having a good time at the moment. We're very busy, so let's have a chat. Got an interesting instruction coming on today for investors as well, as usual, and lots of sales agreed over the weekend. So things are still busy. And given that we are now coming towards the end of November, that's unusual, but not entirely surprising given the extraordinary years we've had. I say years because it's a couple of years now, isn't it? A few bits of news for you. First of all, the Nationwide Building Society has reported soaring profits amid higher lending margins on properties during the pandemic. The bosses said pre-tax profits were 853 million compared with 361 million a year ago. Gosh, that's massive, isn't it? He said in the coming months, a lot would depend on the performance of the wider economy. Landlords are enjoying more favourable rates. The cost of buy-to-let mortgages has continued to fall, even in the face of potential rate rises. Residential loans become more expensive, but buy-to-lets are coming down, with a 2-year fixed 60% loan-to-value at 1.94%. Of course, this is not financial advice. It's purely for educational purposes, but it's fallen every month for a year, according to data from Moneyfacts, which is interesting. And it's interesting, especially when you look at what's going on with the rents generally. And I've got an article here somewhere about that. Rents are rising at their fastest rate since 2008. There's an article in the Sunday Times. It's a Zoopla referenced article. Demand for rental properties continues to outstrip dwindling supply, which is certainly our experience. Rents are up 4.6% in the year to September, and that's the highest rise in 13 years, climbing 3% in the last quarter outside of London, where the market has lagged. Rental growth reached a 14-year high of 6%. The jump will mostly affect the 4.4 million households who live in the private rented sector, accounting for 19% of all housing. That's a huge amount now, isn't it? A huge part of the private sector is now rented. Figures from the online property site reveal that supply is running at 43% below the 5-year average. 43% below, that is huge. And pushing up the cost of rent. The rising costs will hit potential first-time buyers who are also facing increased bills and living costs. Inflation hit 4.2% in October, according to the ONS, and tighter regulations and a less generous tax system for buy-to-let owners have been blamed for a lack of rental supply because landlords have quit the market thanks to the extra administrative and financial burden. That's the trouble, isn't it? It's like careful what you wish for. If you're not really careful, you can end up in a situation where it just doesn't work for landlords. And that seems to have been the case over the last few years. It's been very much about landlord bashing. And that seems to be the political thing to do, the vilification of landlords for no particular reason other than, I think, the fact that landlords took the risk. And yes, they gained the money through taking the risk, but anyone could have done that. That's business and that's capitalism for you. A survey reveals Brits' wish list for improving communities. A survey by the National Lottery has found free car parking, green space and recycling bins are at the top of the list. We don't ask for a lot. It's not a lot to ask for, is it? And yet we don't have it. Apart from that, we have first-time buyers purchasing a property with 10 times their salary. Can you believe that? That is a shocker, isn't it? First-time buyers can now purchase a home worth 10 times, yet you heard that right, 10 times their salary via a privately funded shared ownership scheme. Wayhome has made it possible, in theory, for a household with a 50,000 salary to afford a property worth £500,000, 500,000. These income rules are significantly more relaxed than those are used by high street banks, which typically hand first-time buyers loans of up to 3.5 times their salary. One outlier to this rule is Nationwide, whose helping hand mortgage will lend up to 5.5 times buyers' income. They're still vastly more generous than they used to be, these particular multiples. Its lending capacity is capped at this level because tight restrictions introduced in the wake of the financial crisis intended to prevent lending to overstretched borrowers. But Wayhome does not lend any money to buyers directly, meaning the same strict rules do not apply. The buyer has no mortgage on the property, but instead pays market rent on the share owned by the fund. Buyers can make payments to increase their share of the property without fees. Quite interesting that, isn't it? 10 times the salary. That really is a shocker. More than a decade on from the financial crisis, Many homeowners remain trapped, paying interest rates on their mortgages that are well above average. Many of these mortgage prisoner households are becoming anxious about how they will meet their monthly bills as the cost of living increases. This is quite often the case where people find themselves in different financial circumstances to that when they moved in, and they're perfectly capable and have been paying and have a good track record, but because of their circumstance, they can't refinance, and they're stuck on higher rates than they should be. About 250,000 borrowers are thought to be mortgage prisoners, and the Financial Conduct Authority said it believed this figure was an underestimate. Many took out their home loans with lenders that had to be rescued during the financial crisis and have since had their mortgages sold on to other providers. Most of the providers are inactive, which means they do not offer new mortgages for people to switch to. Issues such as negative equity and having to pay interest-only mortgages prevail. And yes, wow, that's quite a thing, isn't it? But it just goes to show there are people out there that are really stuck in those situations. The Sunday Times reports the interest rate rise may be steeper than we thought. Concerns over inflation are becoming more acute. Of course, it depends on the numbers. And there is a wider expectation that the inflation will start to come down, and this is a temporary blip. But the numbers coming through are huge, and there is a genuine uncertainty. The Bank of England governor says, I don't want to give an impression that there is a piece of data that will come out and I will look at that and say, okay, it's 0 or 0.5 or 2.5 or 40 basis points. So in other words, he's saying nothing, isn't he, really? So apart from that, we're looking at a fairly busy day today, but it's a nice bright day, and we're getting lots of offers in as well. So it's interesting that there are lots of people still out there looking. I think what's happened is confidence is a fragile thing. And the UK property market is full of confidence right now, even post-pandemic, and as London gets back to its feet particularly, the rest of the country is still finding that there's good confidence out there for property. And where there's confidence, there's almost always undersupply. And when there's undersupply, there's always a strong opportunity to sell. So it's still a great time if you're looking to sell. Looking to buy is a little bit more difficult because, as I said, there's undersupply. So that's a different thing. But if you are looking to sell right now, it could be a very good time for you. If you're looking to buy as well, that's a discussion we need to have. It could well be that waiting until a time when there's more available might suit you. But bear in mind, when there's more available, the market might have driven on. Prices might be a little bit higher as well. So if you can get out now and find something, secure it, lock it down, then hopefully that might be right for you. Nonetheless, we are busy at the moment and happy to talk to you. If you're just thinking about moving this year or next, always give us a call. It's what we do. We love to chat property. Have a fantastic day. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourself and your friends and family.